All right, let's dive into something that feels like it's pulled straight from a sci-fi novel, but is, believe it or not, becoming our reality, the metaverse. It's being sold as this revolutionary new way for us to work, play, and connect. But you have to ask, what happens to our privacy when our reality goes virtual? I mean, just picture it for a second. You could be walking through a huge, bustling virtual mall or hopping into a work meeting with colleagues from all over the world where it feels like they're right there with you. You could even try on the latest clothes, all without ever leaving your living room. That's the incredible promise of the metaverse. It's all about blurring the lines between our physical and our digital lives. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. It's really the whole reason we're talking about this today. One of our sources put it perfectly. With immersive experiences comes immersive surveillance. And when you hear it put like that, well, that kind of changes everything, doesn't it?
So, before we get in too deep, let's just make sure we're all on the same page here. What is the metaverse, really?
Okay, so at its core, the metaverse is basically a network of these really immersive, interconnected digital worlds. You pop in as an avatar, that's your digital self, and you can interact with other people's avatars and all sorts of digital things. You can think of it as the next step for the internet, moving from 2D pages we scroll to 3D spaces we can actually walk around in. And, this isn't just one single thing. The word metaverse covers a whole bunch of stuff. It includes fully immersive virtual reality with a headset, but also augmented reality, which overlays digital information onto the real world around you. We're talking about social spaces like Meta's Horizon worlds, and even these really interesting blockchain-based worlds like Decentraland, where people can actually own and build parts of the digital world themselves. Okay, now let's get to the real heart of the issue, because we are talking about a completely new frontier for collecting data. It's your personal data, but it's all happening inside their virtual world. Which leads to the million-dollar question, right? When you step into one of these virtual worlds, what kind of personal data are we actually talking about? The answer? Well, it's probably a lot more than you think. What's so wild here is how personal this data is. We're not just talking about what you click on anymore. We're talking about your biometric data, literally tracking where your eyes are looking, your facial expressions, maybe even your heart rate. Motion data, your unique hand gestures, the way you walk. They can capture the tone of your voice, your crypto wallet address, and even track what you pay attention to and for exactly how long. And this is the absolute key difference. This isn't data you're choosing to type into a box. It's what people call ambient data. It's collected passively in real time, just by you existing and moving around in that virtual space. A lot of the time, you probably won't even realize it's happening. So as you can imagine, this new kind of data collection creates some massive hurdles for our privacy. Let's break down what seem to be the 5 biggest challenges we're facing in these new virtual worlds. These 5 are pretty critical. First, you've got informed consent. Like, how can you even know what you're really agreeing to? Second, this idea of surveillance by design, where tracking is just baked right into the system from the start. Then there's the messy issue of cross-border data. Where in the world is your data actually going? Fourth, and this one is so important, is children's privacy. And finally, the big one, a general lack of regulation, which begs the question, are old laws even ready for this? This quote just nails that first challenge about consent. On a website, right, you get that little pop-up asking you to accept cookies. But in a totally immersive 3D world, how are you supposed to give any kind of meaningful consent? There's no cookie banner floating in the virtual sky. It makes being transparent incredibly difficult. So with all these new challenges on the table, the big question becomes, can our laws, our regulations, can they actually keep up with this brand new reality? Let's take a look. Now, the good news is we aren't starting from complete scratch. There's no law called the Metaverse Law yet, but the principles of some major regulations do apply. For example, Europe's GDPR already says biometric data is sensitive stuff. India's DPDPA considers digital avatars to be personal data. And here in the US, COPPA has really strict rules for protecting kids under 13. So there is a foundation, but the question is it enough? And this is where the rubber meets the road, because applying these old laws can get tricky. Take Meta's Horizon Worlds. It's faced a ton of criticism for exactly these kinds of problems. Privacy settings that were super confusing, accusations of recording and analyzing user gestures, and not having strong enough protections for its teenage users. It just goes to show you the real-world friction between the new tech and the old rules. All of this really leads us to a pivotal question. Do these VR platforms need a completely new standard for privacy by design? A standard that's built from the ground up specifically for avatars in these immersive worlds, instead of just trying to patch up old rules to fit. So let's shift gears from the problems to the solutions. How do we actually go about building a safer metaverse? Well, it looks like there's a clear blueprint for action, and it's going to take a joint effort from developers, regulators, and, well, us. First up, a lot of responsibility falls on the developers, the companies actually building these worlds. They need to find ways to create clear consent prompts inside the VR experience, not buried in some 50-page legal document nobody reads. They've got to give us really specific settings to control what data we share, and maybe even embed privacy notices right into the virtual spaces themselves. Next up, the regulators. Governments really need to think about updating laws to specifically deal with this new kind of real-time spatial data. They can make companies do privacy impact assessments before a platform ever launches, and they can promote strong industry guidelines to help set a high bar for safety and privacy. And finally, there's a role for all of us as users. We can actually take the time to review those privacy policies. We can be careful about limiting unnecessary app permissions on our devices, and we can use our voices to advocate for stronger protections. Believe it or not, our choices and our demands really do matter. So at the end of the day, the crucial point here is that preserving what the source material calls our digital dignity is going to require this 3D approach. It's got to be a combination of clear regulations from the top, transparent design from the people building this stuff, and active education from all of us. And we really have to remember this. The metaverse is super exciting, sure, but it isn't just about cool avatars and playing virtual games. At its very core, it represents a brand new frontier of hyper-personal data collection. And the rules for that frontier, they're being written right now as we speak. And that really just leaves us with one final big question to think about. As we stand on the edge of this new digital world, how are we, all of us together, going to make sure that our privacy, our freedom, our digital dignity is preserved?